Planters, hanging baskets and pots are all wonderful ways to inject extra colour into a garden. If you've only a small space or a balcony or an apartment, there's always room for a little pot somewhere. I am going to show you 4 fabulous designs for planters, telling you exactly what you need to plant and how to plant it. I am going to show you what to look for when you're buying your plants from the nursery to make sure you get the best value for money. And I'm going to tell you how to look after these through the summer so they look amazing, and what to do with those perennial plants that will survive and come back for you next year if you look after them properly. So let's get started. Whenever you're buying your plants, there are a few things you should look out for. It's going to save you a lot of time and money if you pick good plants from the start. So first of all, do the leaves look really lovely and healthy, or do they look wilted? Are there any spots or diseases on any of the leaves? This would tell you that maybe the nursery has been a little bit too busy to look after the plants just as well as you would like them to. So really obviously good healthy plants that are growing really strongly. The next thing to look for if you're buying a flowering plant, it's good if there's already a flower on it. I have in my front garden a very pretty dark pink tree peony that the label swore was definitely going to be white. So if you can see the flower, you know exactly what you're going to be getting, and that will help you colour match with your other plants as well if you're buying several to plant all together. Next, look for continuing flowering. So this lovely dahlia has got several buds all over it, all ready to come up. So I know we're going to get lots more flowers from this plant. And lastly, if you lift it up and look at the bottom of the pot, you ideally want to see just a few little roots starting to poke out of the bottom of the pot. That tells you that this plant is just about ready to go into a bigger pot. Thank you very much. If there aren't any roots coming out of the bottom, and if there's obviously a lot of spare soil around the edges, that means the plant has just been potted into a bigger pot. Usually nurseries charge by the size of pot. So if it's just been potted on into a bigger pot, you're paying the more expensive price, but you're not really getting the bigger, stronger, healthier, older plant. So you want one that is going to give you the best value for money in that it's as big and gorgeous and ready to go as it's ever going to get. You want it to have really healthy leaves. You want it to look obviously healthy, no diseases, well watered, clearly well loved by the nursery staff. Check for your colour and check that it's going to have lots more flowers to come for you. So our first planter style is lovely and formal. We have these 2 gorgeous symmetrical planters leading down a stairway into the garden. So to mirror that symmetrical formality, we are going to have identical plants in both of these pots. Now, there are no real rules in gardening design. You stick whatever plants you like together, and as long as they'll grow happily together, go for it. But to give instant visual satisfaction to a formal style like this, the easiest thing to do is to have identical or mirrored planting in the 2 pots, and we're going to do that with just 3 simple gorgeous plants. The first, and going at the centre of the planters, is this. This is osteospermum, and as you can see, absolutely gorgeous daisy-like flowers. The pollinators adore this. Bees, bumblebees, butterflies, hoverflies, everything loves this. If you deadhead the flowers, so as each flower sort of wilts and starts trying to go to seed, if you pinch it off, it will keep growing new flowers and bloom and be gorgeous for you all through the summer. Now, osteospermum is technically a perennial, so that means that it will live year after year after year after year. So this one little plant could end up being a lovely long-term investment for you. If you are keeping them as a perennial, you need to cut them back a little bit over the winter to keep them lovely and bushy. Otherwise you end up with really long stems with the flowers sort of hanging out at the end somewhere. So there is a little bit of care that needs to be given to osteospermums. These will die if they get too cold. So if you're in USDA zone 11 or warmer, if your winter temperatures never get below 5 degrees Celsius or 40 degrees Fahrenheit, these will live for you for several years. So this plant is going in the center of the planting scheme. Around the edges, we have 2 gorgeous plants that we're going to alternate. So the first, these are marigolds, and as you can see, they're just little bursts of sunshine. These come in various shades of gold and orange and deep red, but I love these beautiful little sunshine yellow ones. They're just stunning. They've got lovely little feathery leaves, really delicate, lovely interest from the foliage as well as from the flowers. These little beauties have got a hidden talent, which is that they ward off certain undesirable insects like aphids. So you'll often see experienced gardeners growing these in the greenhouse alongside tomatoes because it helps to keep the green fly off of the plants. Now these are only annuals, so these won't come back year after year, but a lot of varieties come true to seed. They grow really easily from seed if not, so you don't have to buy them as ready-made plug plants like this. They flower like crazy. Remember to deadhead them as the season progresses and they will just keep flowering and flowering and flowering for you. Last and by no means least, the humble petunia. These are just such incredible looking flowers. Look at that rich velvety softness of the petals. Now these are great for moths and butterflies. Some varieties have a lovely smell. These have got a really light scent but still really pretty. The leaves have got that little velvety fuzz to them as well, and I am keeping our colour palette here to just 2 colours. So we've got this spectacular royal purple. It's fabulous. It's like the Queen's coronation robe. It's just gorgeous. Then we have this extravagant very dark pink with even darker veins running through the petals. Just absolutely gorgeous. Now these will sort of self-deadhead, so after the flower has wilted it will sort of fall off on its own for you. So these are lovely low maintenance plants. The only thing you need to know about these is that if they're in a really windy area, they will not be happy. They get bruised and battered. So as long as it's nice and sheltered like this lovely garden, these are going to be really, really happy. So let's plant up our fabulous pots. So your first consideration is your compost. So I have got here a basket compost. Now, if you can get peat-free compost, please do. Harvesting peat for just garden compost is ridiculous. It's so damaging to the environment and that incredible natural habitat. We can't afford to keep doing that. So if your supplier only stocks compost with peat in it, ask them to please start stocking something else. So this compost is already enriched with extra nutrients, but it never hurts to add a little bit extra. Now, this is a standard NPK fertilizer. So NPK is nitrogen, potassium and phosphorus, and this is in equal parts, so it's a good general purpose fertilizer. Less is absolutely more when it comes to fertilizers. If you put too much fertilizer into your soil or around your plants, it will kill your plants, and that goes for organic as well as chemical fertilizers. So never add more than the recommended amount. I'm going to add just a little sprinkle to my compost and then pop it into my planters. So what I've done is I've filled the planter sort of 3/4 full. So you want to leave about that much of a gap from the top of the planter, because you'll then put your plants in and then fill round with compost. If you fill this up to the top with compost, there's nowhere for your plants to go. I'm really happy with that. I think that looks so pretty. Give it a really good watering and then that's it done. If you want to make your planters as happy as possible, a weekly dose of liquid fertilizer, something like tomato feed, is ideal all through the summer. And in the winter, if you have any perennial plants in the pot, make sure that it's not sitting in a dish full of water where it's going to get all wet and soggy and be just sitting in water the whole winter. Always better to prop it up on little supports. So next we're going to do a lovely simple cottage garden style planter with just 3 plants. So really calm and pretty and simple, and just the sort of thing you want to sit beside while you're having a lovely cup of tea. So my 3 star plants are a beautiful penstemon. It's soft creamy white, just blushed with pink, and as you can see it's a really full healthy plant. Our second hero plant is this. Here in Northern Ireland, these are commonly known as pinks, but most people would know them as dianthus. And the smell of this is just intoxicating. Has those beautiful little glaucous sort of silvery grey spear-shaped leaves, and the smell of those flowers, it's like spicy cloves. It's absolutely to die for. And then lastly, we're just going to use some lovely lobelia to fill in the edges, and we've gone with a nice pale lobelia to mirror the beautiful penstemon. The correct way to get a big plant like this out of the pot is to take your hand and gently interlace your fingers through the stems so you aren't actually grabbing the stems, your fingers are touching the compost. Turn the plant upside down, give the pot a gentle little squeeze, and it will just lift out nice and smoothly. If there are so many roots sticking out of the bottom of the pot that you can't pull the pot off, snap those roots off. The plant responds to having its roots damaged by growing lots more healthy roots, so never be afraid of damaging a few roots, because it will just spur the plant on to even greater heights. So I'm just going to tuck a few handfuls of compost around our lovely penstemon. Then I'm going to add our beautiful pinks. Oh, that just fits so perfectly in there. Now we've got our pretty little lobelia to just fill in the gaps. So these are mostly white, and every now and again there's a little tiny hint of blue. Look how full the roots are on that plant. If it's really root bound, you can just gently scuff up the roots with your fingers. Gentle little small amount of root breaking encourages more roots. Really aggressive, hack the life out of it root breaking, not so good. And there it is. So quick, so simple, so rewarding. Beautiful little cottage garden inspired pot. This is perennial and will come back next year. It will die down completely, so it will look like it's absolutely dead, but it will come back next year. I've got a lovely blue pot, and so I'm going to do a beautiful red, white and blue planter. So for this, we're using a lovely deep red pelargonium. So this is a tender plant. It doesn't like it to get below 5 degrees C, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It is toxic to dogs and cats if they eat it, but these beautiful basket and planter pelargoniums are just so luscious and lovely, and they flower like you wouldn't believe. So again, we've got a lovely, full, healthy looking plant, roots just starting to come out of the bottom of the pot. So we're going to take our hand and encircle the plant, tip it upside down, gentle squeeze, and voila. And we're pairing that with Salvia strata. Now, this is perennial as long as you don't get below 5 degrees C or 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Most people just grow these as an annual. So both of these, if they're kept warm over the winter, will just continue growing, no problems. The salvia stems are going to grow taller, so that will give us a little bit of nice height interest, and the leaves are different shapes. So whenever you're doing any kind of garden design, you want to think about contrast and complementing height, color, and texture. So the shape of the leaves, the size of the plants, and the colors of the foliage and flowers. You either want those to harmonize or to contrast. If all of the leaves are the same shape and the same color, it just doesn't pop. You want that lovely little bit of difference. So speaking of pop, I'm going to add a beautiful white petunia, and then just for a little bit of extra spill over the side, we're going to add some lovely lobelia as well, and I think I can fit one back there too. So I am really happy with that positioning. I'm just going to go ahead and plant that up, and then that will be a beautiful red, white and blue planter all ready to go. This is a lovely little planting scheme for any more shaded areas of the garden that you might have. So the real hero of the display is this coleus with its gorgeous, rich, velvety, deep red, almost burgundy leaves. And that's going to be complemented by our height plant. So this is a salvia, and this one's called Cherry Lips, and it has beautiful, deep purple flowers. And as you can see, that's going to add height to the pot. For a bit of extra interest, we have this beautiful foliage plant. Now, as you can see, it gets these beautiful trailing tendrils with little zingy lime green, almost golden little discs of leaves. And this is Lysimachia nummularia. You'll see this quite often in hanging baskets. So that's going to be a really nice pop of brightness and color in that more shaded area. And just for a little extra flower power, a lovely pink petunia. So we'll plant this up and give it a really good watering, and then that will be ready to look fabulous all through the summer.